All right, let's talk about something that's probably on a lot of our minds. What is all this screen time actually doing to our kids? We're going to dig into the hidden costs, and some of it is pretty surprising. So, you know that feeling, right? You've been scrolling for who knows how long, you put your phone down, and your brain just feels fuzzy. It's like a shaken up snow globe in your head. It's a feeling we can all probably relate to. But here's the crucial thing to understand. For a child, that's not just a temporary feeling of being frazzled. It's something much, much deeper. It's the actual physical process of their developing brain being rewired. So what does that even mean? What's really going on inside a kid's head when they're glued to a tablet or a phone? Well, it all boils down to this concept called brain plasticity. Think of a child's brain like a big block of wet cement. It's incredibly impressionable and can be molded into almost anything. Now, that's amazing when they're learning an instrument or a second language, but it also means it's being shaped by the constant high-speed input from a screen. And look at the kind of training the brain is getting. Screens train the brain to expect and crave a constant waterfall of new, exciting, rapid-fire information. Contrast that with something like reading a book, which trains the brain for slow, deep, sustained focus. It's like you can't train for a marathon by only running 10-second sprints. They're just different muscles. And, this isn't just a theory. These are actual physical changes that scientists can see on brain scans. The cortex, that outer layer of the brain responsible for things like critical thinking and reasoning, is literally thinner in some kids. The white matter, which is like the communication cabling of the brain, is weaker. It's like trying to build a supercomputer with slow, faulty wiring. Okay, so a rewired brain. But what does that look like when a child tries to, think and learn in the real world? This brings us to a really important set of skills called executive functions. This is basically the CEO of your brain. It's what helps you control your impulses, plan ahead, and stay focused on a task. And get this, strong executive functions are a better predictor of lifelong success than a person's IQ. So how exactly are screens undermining this brain CEO? Well, that constant instant gratification just demolishes impulse control. Why would you wait for something when you can get a digital reward right this second? And our brains start to outsource memory, while the rigid, predictable nature of apps and games doesn't do much to build the mental flexibility kids need for messy, unpredictable real life. And that memory part leads to something researchers call the Google effect. It's pretty simple. When our brain knows that any piece of information is just a quick search away, it decides it doesn't need to bother storing that information internally. The knowledge stays out there, on the internet, instead of becoming part of our own understanding. The end result of all this is a habit of shallow cognitive processing. Kids get really good at skimming for facts, but they struggle to dive deep. They become masters of finding a piece of information, but they have a really hard time connecting the dots, thinking critically about it, and building real, lasting knowledge. But this story isn't just about thinking and learning. The emotional toll that unregulated screen time is taking is, frankly, it's just as concerning, if not more so. You don't have to be a data scientist to see what's going on here. The connection between screen time and anxiety is what they call dose dependent. Put simply, the more time kids spend on screens, the higher their reported anxiety levels are. It's that direct and that scary. And a huge part of this, of course, is social media. This quote just nails it. Kids are constantly comparing their own messy, everyday, real life to everyone else's perfectly curated highlight reel. It's an impossible comparison that's just a recipe for feeling inadequate and anxious. All this contributes to something called emotional dysregulation. I want you to imagine a car engine that is just stuck in high gear, always revving. That's kind of what a child's nervous system is like when it's overstimulated by screens. So when you suddenly take the screen away, it's like slamming on the brakes. Is it any wonder we see huge meltdowns and irritability? Their systems are just completely overloaded. So we've looked inside the brain and we've looked at their emotional world. Now let's zoom out and see how all this affects the relationships with other people. You see, kids learn how to be social by actually being social, face to face. That's where they pick up on tone of voice, body language, eye contact, all that rich data. Communicating through a screen with just text and emojis is like trying to learn a language with half the alphabet missing. So of course kids are struggling to read emotions in real life. They're just not getting enough practice. And this disconnect often starts right at home,
We've all seen it, right? A family, all in the same room, but each person is in their own little digital bubble. They're together, but not interacting. For a kid, the message they get from that over and over is heartbreakingly simple. That glowing rectangle is more interesting and more important than I am.
And think about something as fundamental as language. Little kids learn to talk through this beautiful back and forth dance of conversation with their parents and caregivers. It's all about turn taking. A screen can't do that dance. It's a one-way street. It can talk at them, but it can't talk with them. Okay, so let's put all the pieces together. You take a child with a rewired brain, fragile emotional regulation, and underdeveloped social skills, and then you put them in a classroom. What happens next? Well, it's really a perfect storm for academic problems. Their attention systems are impaired, their executive functions are weak, they're often sleep-deprived from late-night screen use, they have less time for homework and reading, and on top of it all, they're dealing with anxiety. It's just a massive uphill battle in the school environment.
7 hours. That's the average. 7 hours a day that kids are spending on screens. Think about what that time is displacing. 7 hours they aren't playing outside, or reading a book, or talking with their family, or even just being bored, which, by the way, is where creativity and imagination are born.
You know, childhood is literally the period where we build the brain a person will have for the rest of their life. Every experience, every interaction is like a brick in that foundation. So when we look at all of this, we really have to stop and ask ourselves a pretty serious question. What kind of future are we building? One tap and one swipe at a time.